The Memphis Grizzlies are coming into this NBA season with mixed expectations. Vegas has put their win total at 40.5, meaning they would be a below 500 team, and some analysts are calling this a reset year in Memphis.
A lot of people taking a step forward in the West is there's an arms race. The Grizzlies take a step backward a little bit. Maybe they would dispute that because maybe they think Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is...
No, they wouldn't.
Okay. Anyway, they trade Desmond Bane. Their number comes way down, 40.5.
It's a reset type of season for them in a loaded Western Conference. I think under here is a safe play.
While it may make sense to believe that the Grizzlies would take a step back after a season that saw them fire their coach right before the playoffs and an offseason that saw them trade away a key asset such as Desmond Bane, I believe that this year the Grizzlies will actually take a step forward. And in order to understand why, I think we need to look at all of the moves that Memphis made this offseason. This past season, the Grizzlies made 3 major moves. They extended Jaren Jackson Jr., they traded Desmond Bane for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but more importantly, acquired draft capital that they turned into Cedric Coward out of Washington State. But the most important move the Grizzlies made this offseason was removing the interim tag from Tuomas Isalo, who had been named the Grizzlies head coach after they fired Taylor Jenkins in late March during the season. A move widely seen across NBA media circles as shocking at the time.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how shocking is this news?
It's way up there. It's like a 10. It's a 10. And so what we've got here is we've got a real philosophical conundrum between the front office of the Grizzlies and Taylor Jenkins. And this was kind of playing out during this season. They hired, Tuomas Isalo from Paris Basket, a French team, where they had to pay a bunch of money to buy him out of that contract, and they're paying him a bunch of money. There was a bidding war for his services with the Wizards.
Isalo's teams in Europe were most notable for how efficient they were on offense, with a heavy dose of pick and roll, as well as their use of screening, including utilizing Gortat and Varejao screens. With the naming of him as head coach, it has become obvious that the Grizzlies rated him highly and identified him for a key role moving forward prior to bringing him on as an assistant. This is the reason they were willing to pay the large buyout. But why does the promotion of Tuomas Isalo to head coach make me believe that the Grizzlies will rebound rather than reset this year? To understand better, you have to know what was so unique about last year's Grizzlies team.
What's next for the Grizzlies now that Jenkins is out?
Cassie, sources tell me they have already named their interim head coach. It will be Tuomas Isalo. He is a Finnish-born former coach, professional player. He's a lucrative assistant, their top lead assistant for the Grizzlies. They've invested a lot in him. He is known for his offense, his creativity. They've changed their entire offense this season. They're now first in the NBA in pace. They've run the fewest on-ball screens and dribble handoffs per game since that stat was being tracked 12 years ago. And so this is a Grizzlies team that is now going to look a little bit different and potentially look even more drastically different offensively.
Shams was correct that the Grizzlies would look different offensively under Isalo, but what he missed was how they would look different. Prior to last season, the Grizzlies also hired Noah LaRoche as an assistant coach, and Taylor Jenkins installed his extremely unique offense that caused the Grizzlies to have the fewest ball screens and dribble handoffs since those stats have been tracked. LaRoche brought his unique offense to the Grizzlies from St. Joseph's College of Maine, where future accountants, insurance salesmen, and middle managers on the St. Joe's teams ran it flawlessly. When the Grizzlies fired Taylor Jenkins, they also fired Noah LaRoche. In the regular season, running the LaRoche offense, the Grizzlies ranked last in pick and roll and dribble handoff possessions per game. In the playoffs, under Isalo, however, the Grizzlies had more dribble handoff possessions per game than any other playoff team, and they had the second most pick and roll possessions per game. The Grizzlies also greatly increased the amount of post-up possessions under Isalo. And Isalo discussed many of these changes in his exit interview.
Thomas, when you took over as interim coach, you pointed out that, there wasn't a lot of time to make changes on the fly in terms of schemes, in terms of strategy necessarily. If you were to start fresh with the similar core of players, how would you envision a playing style that would maximize that talent?
Yeah, like you said, the situation we had 15 games and 2 practices. That's a ratio that makes it very difficult, and we were in a situation that obviously there were no drastic changes that we needed to make or could be made in that situation. We opted for smaller variations, which I think were somewhat successful, especially in the half court. And I think it's more in terms of those for the future, also for potential future where we were able to, I think, highlight the strengths of our primary ball handlers and also Zach Edey in that situation. And there's a lot of stuff obviously that comes through practice and developing a functional collective that are only possible to do with a longer time frame.
The Grizzlies had little time to implement changes under Isalo at the end of last year. I believe that the changes that they did implement, or attempted to implement, tell a story of what they hope to accomplish in the half court in the future under Isalo. Perhaps the biggest change that Isalo made was how he used Jaren Jackson Jr. In the regular season under Jenkins and LaRoche, Jackson had a post-up frequency of 15.4%. In the playoffs under Isalo, that more than doubled to 31.6%. I think it's also important that Isalo highlighted Zach Edey, and I will do so in the second half of this video. But one of the main benefits of having Edey on the court with Jackson is that Jackson has a smaller defender on him and is more likely to draw a double team. When the Grizzlies played the Clippers in December, they decided to put James Harden on Jaren Jackson on defense because Zubats was defending Edey, and if Jaren got the ball in the post, they would send a double. The Grizzlies struggled to play out of the double, as playing out of post doubles was not a part of the LaRoche offense. But at the end of the season, once Isalo had taken over, they looked to force teams to double Jaren to play out of those to find open shooters on the perimeter, or they even had a set play that ended up with an Edey lob. But the post-up possessions that stood out the most to me were not with Jaren Jackson Jr. Rather, it was Zach Edey versus the Golden State Warriors in the play-in game. But to understand this better, we need to go back and watch the post-up possessions that Edey had against Golden State in the regular season. Zach Edey only averaged 1.4 post-up possessions per game this past year. Jaren was the primary option in the post for the Grizzlies. However, when they did post Edey up, he was reliably double-teamed, usually on the catch, sometimes on the first dribble. The Grizzlies struggled to score in the half-court in the play-in game against the Warriors. Coming out of halftime, Isalo made adjustments and went to Edey 5 straight possessions to try and play out of double teams to create open shots. Edey turned the ball over twice, but did also score twice, and Desmond Bane made 1 contested 3. The execution was not great. But as a reminder, the Grizzlies only had 2 practices under Isalo and had no time to really install a post offense scheme. The players on the perimeter look just as lost as Edey does. It's almost as if they're wearing cement shoes. With a full offseason to implement a new half-court offense, I expect the Grizzlies to be much more pick-and-roll oriented with Ja Morant, while also running a lot of dribble handoffs with players like Ty Jerome and Jalen Wells playing off Edey and Jaren. But the reason I'm so high on the Grizzlies is their half-court potential of playing through the post with Jaren and Edey. The Grizzlies' half-court possessions could look a lot more like the Denver Nuggets with Nikola Jokic when they have both Edey and Jackson on the court. There are few, if any, teams that will have a big man that can defend Jaren in the post and another big man that can defend Edey in the post without having to double at least one of them. The Grizzlies will be able to force the majority of NBA teams to double in the post in the half court reliably. This will allow them to construct an offense around this principle. While neither Jackson or Edey are Jokic, the Grizzlies can recreate Jokic in the aggregate.
Now, what we might be able to do is recreate him. Recreate him in the aggregate.
Some teams will be forced to double Jaren, and some teams will be forced to double Edey. Either way, the Grizzlies will be able to play through the post in the half court. This past season, the Grizzlies had the second highest points per possession on post-ups. If teams choose not to double the post, the Grizzlies will have their pick of which matchup they like better, and have either Jaren or Edey just go to work in the post. If the opposing team has 2 post defenders that can stand up to the Jaren-Edey combo, then the next question would be, How are they in their ball screen defense? Because Ja Morant is coming off of these screens. And this brings me to how Purdue used Edey in the post his senior year quite often, after ball screens.
Understand the pieces that he's with. If you watch us play, his post-ups, we really worked, especially last year, on posting him up after ball screens. So like now you get that big and he gets detached. You know, if they want to switch some of those things, especially some of those deep Gortats, you know, he's murdering those situations. And now just being able to play off of some of those and putting people in binds, whether they want to switch or they want to play regular ball screen defense, like he's tough in those areas. He is very, very hard to deal with.
Right now, I know there are some people watching this thinking that there is no way this will work with Edey, and now is where I have to get into the miscalculation of Zach Edey. The Grizzlies made a bold decision drafting Zach Edey with the 9th overall pick in the 2024 draft.
With the 9th pick in the 2024 NBA draft, the Memphis Grizzlies select Zach Edey.
To say Edey was a controversial pick would be an understatement. I'm not sure if there has been a prospect in recent memory with more discrepancy in how people viewed them.
I think he should be #1 pick. If any GM got sense, that's the #1 pick for sure.
Ooh, yeah. Hold on. You hear this? Hold on. You hear this?
I said it.
I'm just saying, that's the water. You hear this? That ain't the water. You hear this? That ain't no numero uno. Listen.
#1, dog.
If you think that having Sarr at 1 is too high, who do you have at #1?
I'm going very controversial this year since it's so wide open. But I actually have someone that you're very low on, #1, and that's Zach Edey.
Wow. You worried that he's just not going to be able to move enough defensively to be able to be more than a, not a 30-minute a night player, but you've obviously got him at #1. I am nowhere near that on Edey, and he is a player who is, you're not the only person I've seen have Edey at #1, but
his game does not translate.
I hope he is hearing
He does. I don't know why. I do not know why you are investing a top 10 pick with what else is on the board on Zach Edey, a backup center, someone who's going to be a defensive liability. I understand getting another center in the front court alongside Jaren Jackson so he can be more of a floor spacer, but he's not going to be on the court that much. And when you're leaving Cody Williams on the board, baffled. And if I'm wrong, I will take the L, but he is not going to translate. He is a poor man's Boban.
Warsaw is going to take him high.
Some idiot.
I swear to God, if he goes 9 to Memphis, you'll never see me again.
I hope it happens now.
I know you do.
Why wouldn't you? Memphis is a great fit for Edey.
Oh, God.
Why?
You can't be serious.
You had Steven Adams.
Dude, I know. They need a high flyer now. They need somebody that can finish above the rim.
Yeah.
To catch lobs.
How can you be so obtuse?
At the Combine, Zach Edey set a record in the lane agility drill for any player that had a barefoot height of 7 feet or above, but he also posted a faster time than Kawhi Leonard and Derrick Rose, let alone other centers such as Kaman Malawak, Donovan Clingan, Derek Queen, Brooke Lopez, and Rudy Gobert. The biggest misconception people have about Zach Edey is that he is slow or can't move his feet. I think this is just people looking at his height and weight and making an assumption. But the fact that he is as mobile as he is at his size is why so many people thought he should have been the #1 pick in the draft, even though at the time he had only been playing basketball for 7 years. Edey is a much less polished basketball player than other centers that have been playing their entire lives like Donovan Clingan. But this raw athleticism stands out, and it stood out at his pre-draft workouts more than it ever did on the court in college.
Love Zach Edey in our pre-draft workouts. I mean, we were looking at him, man. He had a great pre-draft workout with us, man. And, he's one of those guys that's committed to get.
In checking in with sources over the past week, Edey in his workouts was absolutely emphatically dominant. I had 2 sources tell me it got to a point with 2 separate workouts that they almost had to stop them midway through because he was so ridiculously impressive physically on the floor. You can't teach the size, and what happened.
I heard about him is that, okay, he's a divisive prospect for all the reasons we've discussed, but the teams that liked him and brought him in this is what I was told. If you liked Zach Edey and you brought him in to work out and just spend time with you,
right?
You liked him more when he left across
question.
the board. Is that something that makes sense to you?
Yeah, he's going to crush you. Right. Like he's a workout guy, you know, and he's very, very physical. And it just, you know, it doesn't make sense. If I'm an agent of another big, like I'm not letting him go in and work out against Zach Edey.
Hearing people talk about Edey's workouts like this may sound crazy, but you have to remember that Edey only started playing organized basketball as a junior in high school, the same year that Jaren Jackson Jr. was playing for the Grizzlies as a rookie. Edey is new to the game of basketball. He grew up wanting to be a major league pitcher. His winter sport growing up, like most Canadians, was hockey. When you remove the doubts about what to do or unfamiliarity within game situations and provide structure, like what happens in pre-draft workouts, where you might have two guys go head-to-head in a rebounding drill, that is where Edey can physically dominate to a level that it seems not believable when reported on. He is that type of athlete. Edey had one of the most dominant college careers of all time, so much so that when buying his first house, he has to make a decision on which room is going to be his trophy room. And the part that stands out about Edey's college career is that it was his 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th years playing organized basketball. Edey did an interview with Sam Vecini prior to his junior year at Purdue, where he went into his path to basketball and how his time playing baseball and hockey have impacted his basketball skill set.
Yeah. Away from basketball, I would refuse to even play like on the school team and stuff like that. Like I wouldn't touch a basketball. I played a lot of baseball, a lot of hockey, basically all the way up until I quit hockey going into high school. My parents wanted me to focus on one sport in high school best, so I chose baseball. I really liked baseball. I thought my goal was to like be a college pitcher. My goal was to try to pursue the MLB and like all of that. But kind of going into my 10th, so I went to a baseball school, like baseball specific school, in my 9th grade year. Yeah, I'd say there's like 2 definite ways that when people ask me that question, I kind of answer to them. I think baseball really helped me develop a really like good touch with my like right hand. Because I was a pitcher, obviously, and you have to kind of have those like the ball comes off these 2 fingers. You have to have really good control with these 2 fingers. You have to kind of be able to put different spins on with these 2 fingers, stuff like that. And that's kind of basketball also. Even though you shoot with your entire hand, the ball still comes off with these 2 fingers. So you have to like have really good control. Same with hook shots. You shoot hook shots, they come off with these 2 fingers. So I think that really helped me. And baseball is obviously really, really intensive hand-eye coordination sport. So that just I kind of had that as a baseline, as an advantage over some of the people I've played against. You always see those tall people that they can't really control their arms and legs. I attributed baseball a lot of baseball to helping me be coordinated like that. And then in hockey, I think in hockey it really developed like kind of like my physicality, I'm cool with getting hit, I'm cool with people hitting me, I'm cool with giving out the hits. Like I can lower my shoulder, I can take a hit, I can do everything. And then kind of also just being like tough. And whenever you look at hockey players, they always have those like big legs. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
Like those hockey player legs. I definitely have those like hockey player legs, like the quads, the calves.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is with that sport, but that's something that definitely helped me.
I realize I've been talking about Edey for a while. I'm going to get back to why I'm so high on the Grizzlies, but first I do have to discuss his ball screen defense and his play in transition on a Grizzlies team that led the league in pace. These were the 2 main points his detractors brought up about him most often.
Like some of the crap that like our guys have taken, like Braden takes it because he's 5'11", Zebo took it because he was 7'4". Like that's crazy, but it's looking at Purdue, and since these guys aren't McDonald's All-Americans, I guess they can't be that good. Like Zebo can't handle ball screen defense in the NBA. Sure looked like he could to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but like the one thing that I thought about Zebo when they did that with him was, man, when you watch the playoffs, like nobody watches a real playoff game and says, man, that was kind of a soft game. It's physical.
It's on.
It is on. Like it's like gladiator stuff.
Absolutely.
And he's a gladiator.
I have already made an almost half-hour video of clips of Edey in defensive situations that his critics said he would struggle in. so I won't spend too much time on it here. But suffice to say, he not only passes the eye test, but he also passes the analytics test. Per Cleaning the Glass, the Grizzlies were better on defense with Edey on the court than they were when he was on the bench. The game that I think illustrates this better than any other is the Grizzlies' final regular season matchup with the Warriors. Edey was dominant on the glass in that game, and the Grizzlies won his 32 minutes by 13 points. However, the Grizzlies lost the 16 minutes Edey was on the bench by 21, losing the game 134 to 125. This was an important game with both teams looking to avoid the play-in. Because of Edey's impact on the game, the Warriors tried and failed to play him off the court. Edey would finish with the best defensive rating on the team, coming up with huge defensive plays down the stretch. If the Warriors couldn't play Edey off the court in a must-win game in Edey's rookie season, I am willing to go out on a limb and say that it will be hard to play Edey off the court. Edey's critics also argued that Edey would slow down the fast-paced Grizzlies. This was also disproven this year. Edey was a great rim runner in his rookie season. One difference I noticed under Asalo at the end of the season was that Edey seemed to be playing more of a quarterback role. Edey was rebounding and spraying out passes, trying to hit guards in stride as they streaked down the court like receivers running routes. Edey seemed to have a natural talent at leading his guards, accurately leading players like a hockey defenseman in a breakout. They were noticeably working on this as the season concluded, including a few times where Edey hit his man in stride but they weren't looking. It was obvious that this was something not only Edey was getting used to, but his teammates as well. In this upcoming season, I expect this to be part of Edey's game where we see the most growth under Asalo. I'm looking forward to watching his development as the year progresses, although I do expect continued growing pains here. But if Edey can master this, given his height advantage and ability to see over defenders, the Grizzlies may be able to play even faster with him on the court. The reason I feel I have to bring all of this up about Edey in a video about what I expect the Grizzlies' half-court offense to look like next season is that Edey had to prove that he could play in the NBA before a team would actually build a system around his offense. Edey had a very low usage rate as a rookie. He finished 13th on the Grizzlies in this category. Even with this low usage rate, he still finished second in win shares per 48 and third in player efficiency rating for Memphis. No matter how much Zach Kleiman believed in Edey, he wasn't going to force Taylor Jenkins to implement an offensive system that went through the post. In a contract year for Jaren, and with Ja coming back from injury, planning your half-court system around a player like Edey would be the type of decision that either has Michael Lewis writing a book about you, or the camera cutting to you as your season falls apart and fans mock you on Twitter. It wasn't a decision Kleiman had to make last year. He could play it safe and make sure Edey was able to stay on the court before making any major changes that would put his job on the line. It was a prove-it year for Edey, and he did. When Jenkins was fired, DeMichael Cole of the Commercial Appeal reported that Kleiman and Jenkins clashed over style of play and how Edey was utilized. Based on that report, and Asalo specifically mentioning Edey in his exit interview when talking about crafting the new half-court approach, I believe that Kleiman got the proof he needed last year, and the Grizzlies will utilize more low-post offense in the half-court this year. While I believe the Grizzlies will play through the post more in the half-court this year, don't expect them to look like the 1990s Orlando Magic. Modern post offense has evolved and is much more efficient, and to understand just how much, we need to take a look at how Purdue runs their offense.
Remotely go through their actions, but they've run 77 plays, different plays, in the last 7 games. I mean, he's an offensive savant.
And so, like, along those lines, I said, hey, man, I gotta, before I can make my players better, like, I gotta be better. And so I just switched up a lot of things. I actually was just sitting on my chair watching NFL films. And that's how a lot of it started. I said, I'm gonna recruit a smarter player, I'm gonna recruit a more skilled player, and then I'm gonna change how we do things offensively. In those NFL films, you know how they reel off a play and Brett Favre yells 18 words? How in the hell do you know what 18 words is? But like, you need to know 2 of them, you need to know 2 of them, you need to know 2 of them. I'm Brett Favre, I gotta know all of them. And at times he was a riverboat gambler anyway, so he just kind of, he rolled too. But like, that piece of it is what I wanted. I wanted to run a bunch of things offensively, but not make it complicated.
Don't play through that crowd. We come down, we see what's on the board, we execute.
Purdue would enter the ball into the post a number of ways, but their favorite way was to make post-entry passes with Mason Gillis, a 47% three-point shooter who, like Edey, had been a baseball player growing up. In high school, Gillis was throwing 85 miles per hour. Purdue would have Gillis feed Edey from the top of the key with bullet passes that were on time and on target. Edey has great hands, meaning that when Gillis would find him on time and on target, there was nothing the defense could do. But it wasn't just Gillis rifling the ball into Edey that made Edey so effective at Purdue. Purdue kept their shooters in motion and spread out to maximize space for Edey to make it hard for teams to double without leaving a shooter wide open on the perimeter. Purdue also posted Edey up after ball screens, meaning that if his man didn't help in ball screen coverage, the guard he was setting the screen for would be able to get downhill. Jordan Sperber made a great video on Purdue's offense with Edey, and while Purdue would post Edey up like it was 1999 at times to invite doubles, they mostly ran their offense through the post in complex sets such as these that look nothing like what people think of when they think of playing through the post. I believe that Memphis will be able to play efficiently through the post in the half court using these concepts, whether that is with Jaren or with Edey. Memphis struggled this past year with post entry passes, typically because they either missed their opportunity or lofted the ball in and made it a jump ball situation for Edey, rather than firing direct passes on time. Another issue was that because they weren't trying to play through the post, many of Edey's touches were random occurrences. Some where the ball was just thrown at his feet or way above his head, and when they did get the ball inside, there was no movement or actions for the guards to keep the defense honest or free up shooters for easy passes if the double came. Even considering their lack of structured post offense, Memphis still ranked second in the league in post-up efficiency, and that is not on low usage. They had the 10th most post-up possessions in the NBA last season. A big difference between how Edey's post-ups in college looked and how his post-ups so far in the NBA have looked is that Edey not only knew where the ball was coming from, but he knew where his shooters were moving to.
I see basketball, it's a game of constant interactions between 2, 3 players or 5 players on the floor, and that's something that you establish through habits in practice so that during the game the players are not what we call in search mode where they're looking for solutions, but it's more habits based and they're in action mode where everybody's moving in sync without having to think about it when we see what the defensive choice is.
Memphis should be more efficient this year, assuming they include screening concepts into their approach. Remember last year, Memphis used the fewest ball screens since the stat has been tracked. Running their offense in this manner will also allow Ja to get to the rim more, as the post defenders will be more concerned with getting back to Jaren and Edey, which will allow them to Gortat screen rather than post up in these situations. Gortat screens are something that we rarely saw with Memphis last year, but was a staple for Edey at Purdue, and more importantly, for Isalo on all of his past teams. There are tons of reasons to be excited about actually utilizing Edey's strengths. Last season, the top 5-man lineup in the NBA with at least 90 minutes played together was Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Jalen Wells, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Zach Edey. Noah LaRoche's offense promoted positionless basketball concepts. However, I think that people with the most basic basketball knowledge could tell you that this is very much not a positionless lineup. And while Memphis did improve in the half court last year in LaRoche's system, posting their best half court points per play in the Jenkins era, a coach who notably had struggled his entire career in the half court, however, it was the bench unit that saw the most improvement, with Marcus Smart, Luke Kennard, and Jake LaRavia being a plus 5.4, a plus 3, and a plus 1.1 points per play in the half court in their on-off per cleaning the glass. Meanwhile, Zach Edey, Jalen Wells, and Jaren Jackson Jr. all posted a negative on-off in points per play in the half court at negative 3.8, negative 3.3, and negative 0.5 points per play in the half court per 100 possessions this past season. And when you also look at 4-man lineups or 3-man lineups that played together last year for the Grizzlies, they had multiple representations in the league's top lineups by net rating, and all of those lineups either included Jalen Wells, Jaren Jackson Jr., or Zach Edey. The Grizzlies were one of the better defensive teams in the NBA last year, especially when Edey and Jaren were playing together with Jalen Wells as a point-of-attack defender on the perimeter, surrendering only 106.2 points per 100 possessions when they shared the court. With Edey protecting the rim, Jaren roaming, and Jalen shutting down the opposing team's best perimeter player, the Grizzlies were tough to crack on that end of the court. The Grizzlies also were the best transition offense in the NBA last year, thanks to Ja Morant. If the Grizzlies can fix the half-court offense when their best players are on the court, they will immediately be one of the best teams in the NBA. When playing good opponents, you need your best players on the court. Bench units won't hold up against the best teams in the NBA. And if the half-court offense doesn't cater to your best players, who you need on the court, then you're going to struggle against the best teams. This is especially true in the playoffs when the game slows down and there are fewer transition opportunities. To prove my point, all you have to do is look at the Grizzlies' record versus above 500 teams last year. It was abysmal. When the Grizzlies had a combination of these three players on the floor last year, they were one of the best teams in the NBA, even with the half-court struggles. You'll notice Desmond Bane is absent, a player that had an on-off rating of negative 4.3 points per 100 possessions last year for the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies have moved on from Bane in favor of the length of Cedric Coward and proven Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Pope previously played on the post-up-oriented Denver Nuggets, winning an NBA championship. Additionally, the Grizzlies now have 3 players that can defend at a high level on the perimeter. I want to put one counterfactual into your mind before I finish, and no, it isn't what if Ja hadn't gotten hurt against the Thunder. While the Grizzlies would certainly have sent the series back to OKC, they still would have lost. But what if Jalen Wells hadn't gotten hurt against Charlotte and had been able to play against the Timberwolves, defending Anthony Edwards later that week? Could the Grizzlies have pulled that game out? Edwards went off for 44 points for the game as the Timberwolves scored an unbelievable 52 points in the third quarter. Would Jalen have slowed him down? If so, the Grizzlies would have been the 6th seed and had the Timberwolves' path against the Lakers and Warriors, 2 teams that struggled with Edey's size during the regular season and would eventually have their seasons end with Gobert dominating them. The Grizzlies have Ja and Jaren secured for the next 3 years. 3 years that Edey, Wells, and Coward will all be on rookie deals for. I know what I'm about to say sounds crazy, but what if a Warriors fan had made this video about Steve Kerr taking over the Warriors in 2014, just as I'm making about Isolo taking over the Grizzlies? They would have sounded crazy as well. The Grizzlies won't sniff the second apron, let alone the luxury tax in the foreseeable future. And this is in a league where the Celtics had to trade Porzingis and essentially got back just Chris Boucher. In this modern NBA, could Memphis be set up for the next dynasty? Obviously, health is the biggest issue, as it always is with the Grizzlies. Edey and Jaren both seem to be on pace to return early, or semi-early in Edey's case, in the season. Edey's already out of his boot as of late July. And as there are still a couple of months until basketball gets going in earnest again, why not have some delusional optimism? Why can't we choose to believe that 3 years from now, in July, Memphis fans will be able to sit down and watch Ja and Jaren take on Edey in the gold medal game of the 2028 Summer Olympics, having just recently cleaned the confetti off of Beale Street? I know. I'm just some random person on YouTube who has no idea what they're talking about. But hey, do any of us know what we're talking about?
They need somebody that can finish above the rim.
Yeah.
To catch lobs.
Morant lobs and a finish by Edey. It's going to be on Ja Morant.
See, as Morant's able to just string enough. He makes just a little bit of hesitation that keeps Jokic there long enough for him to be able to throw.
The big three have produced tonight, led by Bane with 24. Jackson on the back down. A double team lob for Edey.
Perimeter. He's got 12 points, 5 of 11 from the floor. Jump stop by Bane out to Jackson. Shot clock at 7. Lob to Edey for the flush. Nice look by Jackson.
Or they'll just throw the ball high. No way Wells can defend that.
Morant lobs for Edey. All right, dueling lob.
In Asbury Park.
Yeah.
Pull up.
Lob for Edey. Brooklyn has had an answer. Edey. Yes. 23 for Edey.
And again, partner.
Leading at halftime has been regular for the Grizzlies. Lob for Edey from Morant. There's the double-double for Morant.
Morant, good job continuing to keep the dribble. And you see right there, there's no help on the roll, no bump, no help.
Good struggle, and Morant Triple-double for him. And he celebrates with a lob to Edey. Timeout, Milwaukee.
Look at Zach Edey. Did you see the exhilaration by Zach Edey after that finish?
12th triple-double for Morant in the regular season. 21, 10 boards, 12 feeds. Throwing a steal for good measure. Edey with 10.
Because of his strength.
Pippen lobs it up for Edey.
First we see Scottie Pippen Jr. turns the corner, throws it up just high enough. It's hard for a defender to jump as they're retreating. When they're throwing it to Edey, just
Warriors 75% from the line on the season, but 100% tonight. Morant lobs for Edey. And a foul.
The thing, one of those guys they were missing earlier in the year due to injury for Strus. And all it does is just make their depth that much better. Nice lob set up here to Zach Edey by John.
Amazing. Edey screens. Morant lobs it up, and the big fella throws it down. Wells lobs for Edey through traffic.
Well, they have this. At one point, you talked about nice look.
Edey.
Nice look. Remember you talked about the Mavericks shooting 50%, partner? Felt that he didn't need much more time at Arizona, more than that one season.
Another lob for Edey. Antonio, no turnovers in this period either.
61 points here in the half with still 5 minutes to go. Good
lob for Edey.
Nice setup there.
Morant lobs for Edey. It's one of the highest percentages in the NBA. Morant lobs it up. Edey dunks.
You see what a difference on that one? If you go back
0 for 2 to start. 3 gone by here in the first quarter. Morant on a drive, lobs it up for Edey.
Great recognition. First off, John Morant